Hi, it's Kevin May, the Editor-in-Chief of PhocusWire, here in the PhocusWire studio. Thank you very much for joining us. Hans Miller, the CEO of Airside Mobile, or Mobile, as you would call it here. So we can call it whatever we like, of course. But really interesting biometrics. It's something that's been talked about a long time, but there is a sense that it is starting to get to a maybe not a tipping point as such, perhaps.
I think so.
You think it is?
Yes,
Yeah, I mean, you would
US.
say that, of course,
yeah.
but I mean, general industry, I think, is starting to wake up that the technology now is so good, and it is safe, secure, all those types of things. Now we're just instead at the point where we need consumers to accept it. Would you agree?
I would agree. I think that how the information is handled and what it's compared to is one of the key questions that's coming up. And that's what we're really excited about.
Okay, so how do you answer that question?
So, today we're seeing a lot of experiments in the United States with airlines, in particular, doing facial recognition, and looking what are we going to compare that to. If you look at what Clear has done with biometrics, they're enrolling you, they're capturing a biometric, they're putting it in your profile, and then they use that as sort of a proprietary biometric. If you look at what U.S. Homeland Security has done, is they've created a system where when I enter or exit the country, there's a facial recognition component that's going against the passport database, right? Yep. What we believe is that one of the obstacles to rolling out biometrics in the travel industry broadly is how do you create a reference point that a hotel, an airline, a car rental agency can compare the photograph they're capturing at the touch point back to, right? Where does that photograph come from? If it's a matter of every travel provider has to enroll everyone, sort of like what Clear does, that's going to be a major problem. That's going to take a long time.
That's a scalability issue then.
Scalability, cost, privacy, data protection, all kinds of problems. The government, we believe, is not going to be able to serve every touch point because there are restrictions on what they're allowed to do and what they're not. So we think there's a really good opportunity to allow consumers to own their own information, for us to validate it, make sure that it's accurate, that it's safe and secure, and that we only share it. We only make it available to the travel provider when the consumer says, okay, go ahead and do that.
Okay.
So in some sense, it's like being a bank, right?
Okay. I hope you have a better reputation than some of the banks do.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I mean, where do you see your target market from a customer base, not the user base? Is it airports and airlines? Is it hotels? Where do you see the most pickup, do you think?
We're very focused on airlines, hotels, car rental as our first areas, and also the organizations that serve those, the Amadeuses of the world and whatnot. We think there's a lot of potential there. I think we're also very interested in companies that historically have held traveler profiles. Some of the TMCs and Expedias and Bookings of the world. With biometrics, everyone's going, hey, we have to add more PII to the file. Do we really want to do that, right? And with GDPR, a lot of general counsels are coming back to the business guys and saying, whoa, hang on here, right? What are you doing? And I think that really has crystallized the market need for a consumer-owned account that can be universal, that can be interoperable, that can easily accommodate biometrics.
Okay. Aviation, for example, is one of the most heavily regulated, often for a good reason, on the safety side and things like that, industries on the planet. How do you kind of overcome some of those obstacles that there will clearly be with regards to introducing this technology?
We have our roots in government service.
My
co-founder Adam Sal and I both came out of the early days of Homeland Security. We helped draft the standards for mobile boarding passes in the United States, among other projects on the regulatory side. We work with U.S. Customs and Border Protection. We run the mobile passport app, which is about 5.5 million members. So we feel that is sort of our secret sauce, is understanding how to work within that framework, how to be the bridge between government and the private sector. And I think we have kind of a special approach for that.
Okay, so we talked about the industry side of things. Let's talk about the user and the consumer side of things. What is going on, do you think, in the heads of consumers when they're seeing the introduction of these things? Someone likened it to me recently. It's, there is that sense of nervousness still, a little bit like when credit cards were introduced as a form of web payment. People think, I'm
do I
not
really
su-
want to do that?
Yeah, I'm not sure
Yeah.
about that. Do you think
Yeah.
the wider consumer base is still in that kind of nervousness phase? But okay, it's great that I can walk through a tunnel at Dubai Airport and that happens,
Yeah.
for example.
Here's what we've seen, right? Is that when you talk to people, they'll say privacy, very important. I'm very anxious. When you put them in a high leverage use case, like waiting in a 3-hour customs line, those concerns go out the window, right? And they're like, get me out of this line. And that's a very powerful moment. And the trick is to respond to that moment in a way that benefits the consumer's privacy in the long run and not exploit it for short-term gain. So what we see with Mobile Passport, where people are setting up their passport information in a profile, and then we facilitate that information being transferred over to the government and coming back to them with what amounts to a fast lane pass. There has to be trust. And we take that trust extremely seriously.
Yeah.
And I think the uptake speaks for itself.
Yeah. Okay. Hans Miller, thank you very much for joining
Thank you
us.
very much.
Thank you.